Hi, everybody, and welcome to the next episode of Backstage. We've got quite a library. I think you all know that. Let me give a special shout out to Paul Eisen. He's the guy behind the scenes here that makes us all look good, and he never takes any credit for it. So I know Paul's going to get some kind of Emmy or something for this. We'll put you up for it, Paul, but congrats. You know, the people that do all the work and never get in the spotlight. He's the man that makes this work. So today, another special guest. When the Division of Education started growing, one of the ideas was to get somebody who was like really well respected in the profession and see if we could bring them on board and they could start help building bridges to all of the people that are part of the music education community. And so our initial, and he's got the pleasure and the privilege of being numero uno, was Rick Ghinelli. And once we got Rick on board, well, first of all, he set the bar so high that we thought nobody could reach it. And the best part is he keeps moving it up all the time. He's been on both sides of the fence. So would you please help me welcome my dear friend, Rick Ghinelli. Rick, what's going on in Houston, Texas?
Hey, good to see you, and thanks for having me. Houston, unfortunately, with the COVID situation, things are different here, just like everywhere else. But amazingly, we have bands that are still performing, competing, and I don't know how they're doing it, but they're being very successful at it.
It's Texas, right?
Yeah, it's a culture like I've not experienced anywhere else.
Would you take just a moment, Rick, and give us a little snapshot of your life? What are the highlights, my friend?
Well, the highlights are, I grew up in Michigan, and I had planned to go to Michigan State, and several strange coincidences came about. I ended up going to the University of Houston. Graduating from there, got my first job in Spring ISD, just north of Houston. And I was a band director, assistant band director, then head band director at a middle school. And I always thought at some point I might want another door to go through if I ever needed it, right? And so I started taking some classes in administration, and very unexpectedly something came open. I applied for it, I got it, and so I ended up going into administration. I was a elementary assistant principal, and then I got moved over to a middle school as assistant principal, and then I became the principal at that same middle school. And then when the illustrious Richard Crane retired, I was fortunate enough to be selected to take his position, not to certainly replace him, but to take his position. And I was the director of performing and visual arts for 13 years before I retired to work for Con Summer.
There you go. Can you tell us just a little bit, Rick, about TMAC? Because I think that's important for all of our listeners to know what it is. And you were president of it, so.
Yes, I was very fortunate to be involved in that organization, Texas Music Administrators Conference. And again, you'll probably hear me use the word fortunate a lot, but in Texas, we are extremely fortunate to have a very robust group of administrators that districts are supporting to become fine arts supervisors, fine arts administrators. And we started this, or it was, I should say, they started this many, many years ago. When I got on board in 2000, I think we met at the Texas Music Educators Association, their headquarters, and we sat around a conference table. There might have been 15 to 20 of us. Last count, I heard there were over 200 registered as music administrators. And it's just a really great source of support for, people can bounce ideas off each other. We meet really 3 times a year now. Our big conference is typically in November, face-to-face. And we do something right before TMEA, Texas Music Educators. And now we're doing something just to catch up in the summer at our Texas Bandmasters Conference. So, and they've been doing Zoom meetings just like everybody else, almost monthly. So it's a great organization.
Yeah, there's probably more music administrators in Texas, just the state of Texas, than if we put all the, there's like 1,000 in the nation or something like that, right?
Right. Yeah, I've discovered pockets of them in several different places,
Mhm.
but to my knowledge, Texas has the largest contingency, if you will. Yeah.
Imagine that.
Yeah. And you know what's really interesting? I'm seeing that even small school district, like one horse towns, one high school, one, they have music administrators, and I think principal type administrators, superintendents are starting to realize that we can't give these folks the fine arts teachers. We can't give them the support they need because most of those folks aren't. They don't understand the subject matter,
Mhm.
and so to give them the same kind of support as they give the math teachers and English teachers, so on and so forth. Uh, yeah, they needed fine arts administrators. So it's great.
Super great. Tell us what an educational support manager does, since you carved the pathway for all of us.
Well, that's a really good question. It is a position that has evolved over time. When the job was explained to me, it was almost like we don't even know what to tell you what to do because we've never had this position before. So you tell us what we need to do to make it work for you. And I think you described it perfectly. It was set up to be a bridge builder. Those of us who are not in sales but understand and know the people on the education side of things, and so we can help sort of connect the dots with not only the sales back then but now all the tremendous other products and services we offer through the Division of Education. So I'm sort of the boots on the ground on the education side for the Southwest US.
Um, just what would a day be like for you? I mean, you get up in the morning, and what's a day like as an ESM?
Now with COVID,
Yeah, yeah.
now it's here. You see it. I'm in here in the office. We've got this fabulous stimulus program going on right now where we're helping schools purchase instruments that they might not normally be able to purchase because of COVID and sharing. And so our president Steve Zaff was kind enough to allow us to do this to help schools. And so I pretty much am involved all day long working with not only dealers, but our district manager and school districts in my territory to help them get what they need.
Yeah. I'm going to throw a word at you. Tell me how important it is. Communication.
Oh, extremely, extremely important. And when you have my hair color, I mean, you've gone the gamut of communication from before email to now. There are young directors who much prefer to get a text, right? Or
Mhm.
so you have to learn everybody's mode of communication.
Mm.
um, I know some people that I can text or email them and they pick up the phone and call me because they would much rather just talk to somebody. They don't want to do it, through social media or that kind of thing. But it's really, really important. I think the biggest breakdowns and misunderstandings come from just lack of communication.
Yeah. Yeah. What does it say? Every problem comes back to lack of communication. Every resolution comes because we communicate.
Exactly.
So this is perfect, because right in that same pathway, because you were an administrator, you were a band director. Now we're over on this side. Here's the next term: trust relationships.
Yeah, I think it's, if I put my band director hat back on and with my principal hat interchangeably, it's really important that people on the campus develop those trust relationships with their administrators,
Mhm.
so that those administrators will have their ear, have their back if anything does go wrong or if there's a great need. And it's important that you're seen as not just caring about your particular program, but that you care about the situation as a whole. And when you do that, my experience on both sides
Mhm.
of those scenarios is that those relationships are going to definitely benefit you.
So choose to understand before being understood.
Yeah, absolutely.
I wish I'd have thought of that instead of Stephen Covey.
Yeah. Okay. Still works.
I know. So I want you as an administrator, where I'm a young band director, you're my principal. Tell me what I need to do to make sure that you're part of my program.
Well, I'll turn it around and kind of say it again. I need to be a part of your program too. I think any administrator could go down their list of their staff and say, this is a team player, this is a team player, this person's just cares about themselves, that kind of thing. You really have to be seen as a team player. And I tell directors all the time, especially young directors, I said, I know you don't have time to do all these extra meetings or be on a committee or whatever, but you have to make the time to do that. You have to show them again that you care about what's happening in the school. What can I help you do, Mr. or Miss Principal, to help your school be successful? Because in turn, they're going to help you have your program be successful.
Yeah.
Make your program be successful.
It really is the key. And I mean, when I talk to people and I drop your name, I'll go, Rick, and like, oh, Rick, he's my best friend, and everybody's your best friend, which means you've spent a lifetime developing that network of trust relationships through communication. So,
well, and I think it's important to develop those relationships outside of your immediate subject area. I tried to know something about my students and my faculty when I was an administrator that had nothing to do with school. I wanted to, hey, how's the new puppy? Hey, I know you had a new little brother come recent. How's the new baby doing? Just to show that, again, you care about them in a different way than just the subject matter at hand.
yeah, everybody's favorite subject is themselves.
Right.
If we talk about that, they'll engage in the conversation. We have a lot of people, Rick, that are college people that watch Backstage all the time, and a lot of young teachers. What advice do you have for that young teacher that's going out there and jumping into the deep end of the pool for the first time?
Okay, I don't want this to sting, but you can't come out of college thinking you know it all.
Amen.
It doesn't matter how great your mentor is. It doesn't matter how great your university person was. There is so much to learn. I mean, I'm not even in the classroom anymore, and I'm going to be attending the Midwest Virtual Clinic because I want to hear what people have to say. I'm pretty far removed from the classroom, as a matter of fact, but I think it's that concept of you never want to stop learning. The other thing is, do not be afraid to ask for help. A lot of people think that that's a sign of weakness. Oh, I can't ask anybody because I don't want my principal to think I don't know what I'm doing. No, bring it on. Come, please, help me. So I think those two things, as far as the subject matter is concerned, are important. I think the other thing is you have to take care of yourself. Young directors want to make their mark so quickly on the world, and it's sometimes a slow process, and in that process, to use the old phrase, burning your candle at both ends, pretty soon there's no candle left, and you're going to be no good to those kids. You're going to be no good to your school or the rest of your staff if you're not taking care of yourself. So very important.
Do you miss the kids teaching?
Of course, you always miss the interaction. That is very funny that you say that, because just within the last 2 weeks, I have had a handful of my former students that I started when they were sixth graders. Now we're talking years ago, right? They're like in their 40s now. Contact me through Facebook and just say, one of them was in the President's Own Marine Band and I didn't even realize it. So we had this whole conversation, and so many of them said, you guys were the ones that made me love music to begin with. And so, yeah, that's the part you miss, is that interaction, and the even with the adults that I work with, is the ability to help them and point them on a path forward.
Yeah, I'm not sure music teachers have any idea what a profound impact they have because they're close to the students all the time in that culture.
Right,
Agree?
right. Absolutely. My junior high and elementary and junior high band director was Andrew Ballant.
Oh my gosh, are you kidding me?
Sure, you know that name, right? Of course,
Yeah, he's your friend.
as kids, we never knew what a big deal that was, right? And we knew he wrote music and all that. Well, years ago, I was conducting a guest conductor at Midwest, and he came to see me because he saw my name on the program. And we chit-chatted afterwards, and I literally chased him down and had that, Mr. Ballant, if it wasn't for you, thank you, thank you, thank you, I would never be on that stage, you know. So
And it's Mr. Ballant, right?
always,
Yeah.
yeah.
Can't get those first. Oh, that's great. I didn't know that Andy. Wow.
Yep.
There was,
Sure.
when we were talking about, Rick, we were talking about administrators. This was a question I heard the other day because you hired teachers. You hired a
Oh,
lot
yeah.
of teachers.
Right.
And the administrator said, here's the three things: relevance, rigor, and relationships, and asked the person to put them in order. Of course, relationships is one.
Of course.
And it's just so interesting because a lot of people would go rigor, the curriculum, or, is it applicable to the person? And
Right. Well, and Bill Daggett is the educator that came up with that whole concept, rigor, relevance, and relationships. And I've done a presentation or two where I've flipped that around and of course gave him credit for the concept. But yeah, because if you have the relationships with kids, they're going to go the extra mile for you because of you.
yes,
They're going to try to play that hard music because of you. Yeah, I've seen it happen over and over.
yes, we're all Mr. Ballant in some way.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about the Music Administration Collaborative as part of the DOE.
Well, and we talked about that a little bit. It's a great. It's sort of what we do in with Consumer, like the TMAT group that we do in Texas. What we're trying to do is bring people together from all corners of the world that do this same job. As you mentioned, there are very few out there in the rest of the world. And a lot of times you feel like you're on an island. You don't have anybody to turn to for help. So, Gary Markham, our executive director, put this together many years ago, and I've been lucky to jump on the bandwagon with him. But it's a way to connect with people that do the same job that we do, or I did, on a daily basis. We spend as music administrators, you spend so much time trying to find relevant staff development for your teachers,
Mm-hmm.
but you never get relevant staff development yourself. I mean, you can go to the conferences and stuff, but I'm not going to go to a conference and sit through how to teach oboe anymore, right? So this is a great opportunity. It's sort of professional development for the music administrator. That's the way I look at it.
Well, and watching the interaction of the people, I mean, it's not where they sit there and want somebody to talk to them. They want to be.
Absolutely. The collaborative part is the most,
Yeah.
the C, right? That's the most important part of it. We've got to get people talking, that whole sage on the stage thing, that works for a lot of stuff. But after you do that, it's like, okay, let's talk about what we just heard. Yeah, it's very important.
Mm-hmm. I know, Rick, people are going to be watching this long after we've had the vaccine and everything. But if you had any advice for teachers right now under these parameters, what would you say to them, buddy?
Well, I think a lot of them that are being successful are already doing it. It's, being persistent in what you need to have done, right? One of the things, again, not to make this sting a little bit, but one of the things that I said early on was, guys, you got to realize that superintendents and principals right now, they're not really concerned with what's happening with the band program. They don't even know how they're going to get kids on a school bus and get them to school. Right. So, don't look poorly on them because of that. It'll come around. Keep being the cheerleader for your program. Tell them what you need. And in due time, it will come about. And be persistent, be creative, be flexible. You can't just have it this way in this particular time. Actually, you can't have it just this way in any time, right? And I say, I don't mean lower your standards by any stretch of the imagination. Just understand that there's got to be a little bit of flexibility within those standards that you have, so that everybody can get what they need out of it.
Yeah, perfect. Right now, of course, the big thing is recruitment and retention, right?
Right.
So let's take recruitment and retention, and let me throw another spice into it and tell me how important it is. Parents.
Oh, incredibly important. One of the things that I talk to groups about is, when we do advocacy, we always seem to want to advocate to the people who are going to get us something. Like, I need to advocate to my principal, I need to advocate to my school board. But we also need to advocate to parents, because there's so many things that parents don't know about the benefits of being in the program. If they've never had a kid in the program, they don't understand the benefits. And now, don't get me wrong, some of my best friends were counselors, right?
Yeah, I got it.
But unfortunately, counselors aren't really getting to do what they signed up to do. They're schedule makers, And so a counselor may say in good faith, hey, you need to drop band because you need to take this class and that. And so we need to make sure that parents are just as involved in that process, and that we're keeping them informed about how being a part of your program is going to benefit their child in the long run. I don't know if that made any sense.
No, that makes a lot of sense, because I think a lot of parents think it's about playing a horn or playing a violin, or having to go Friday night to a game or something, instead of going, no, this is going to change the way your child thinks about everything.
Right. When you look at all those, the 21st century learning skills and all that was set out. I mean, I asked music teachers all the time during presentations, tell me something your kids learn in your music class that have nothing to do with music. And all those things come up: communication, problem solving, getting along, all that.
Yeah, people skills.
People skills. Yep.
We teach music, we teach people.
Yep.
That's good. Okay, I'm gonna take a little turn on here.
Okay.
How important do you think it is, and this is a soft pitch, I'm gonna lay it right in front of you, but the affiliation, the association, the working together of music education and music industry?
Something that I had no experience with, right? Which was one of the things that I was intrigued about taking the job, learning the other side of the music world. It's incredibly important, and every major industry in music, vendor in music, however you want to say it, company, cares about what's happening with the programs.
Yeah.
Because it's a two-way street, and if kids aren't in band, we're not going to sell instruments.
Right.
It goes both directions. So we need to be a support for them, to be maybe on a higher level than they can be. We have folks that go to Washington, D.C. and advocate for programs on behalf of the schools. And so I think it's really important, again, use your resources. And the music industry is a huge resource that can give educators maybe some tools that they need to do their job a little bit better.
Yeah, I think if anything out of the pandemic, may have been one of the good things, the silver lining, that we have to work together now. The symbiosis is so obvious right now.
Right.
That
Right.
we can't. So if I were a band director, an orchestra director, and I lived in somewhere, Texas, and I went, I'm in trouble, could I call you?
Absolutely. I say to people, I want Consumer to be your one-stop shop for everything music education. If you have a need for instruments, obviously call me. If you have needs for professional development, call me. Do you need an inventory program? Call me. Do you need help putting a financial plan together? Call me. I mean, we do all of that, and I have to tell them all the time. I said, I know this is hard to believe, but there are no strings attached. If I spend 2 or 3 hours working you through all this, and you go buy products that are not ours, it's not like I'm going to pull the rug out from under you. We're really trying to do things to help music educators do their job better, to take a little pressure off of them.
There's no hidden agenda.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. I wouldn't be working for this company if I thought there were.
I know that is true for, well, it's true for the whole company, but Division of Education and the ESMs, I mean, my God, what a quartet of people that run
Yeah.
the front lines all the time.
Yeah, when you look at the educational support managers across the country, we have over, I think, 120 years of education experience in public schools.
And all successful too. That's it. Okay, boy, this is gonna go so fast. I want to go do a lot more here. If you stand back now and go, okay, we're going to come out on the other side of this thing. We'll have to. I mean, there's no other option. What advice would you give for right now to prepare for that, if that makes sense? Should I just wait till it shows up, or should I be planting seeds? What should I be doing?
I think you should always be planting seeds because as administrators have to make decisions for what's going to happen next. If you have to respect the fact that maybe like I said earlier, band is not on the top of their list right now, but it's going to get closer to the top of the list as things clear out a little bit more. And you can't wait so long that you try to implement a plan once everything else is already put in place. And then they may say, if you'd have come to me 2 months ago, we could have worked this in, but now we're locked into this situation. So yeah, I think here's what I say, Tim. Advocacy, and I think planting seeds is advocacy. Advocacy is not a diet, right?
Right.
It's not like, hey, I've got to lose 15 pounds to get into that suit for the wedding, in 2 months. No, I need to change the way I eat, all the time.
Yeah.
And so you can't advocate just when you need something. It has to be ongoing with parents, with administrators, with everybody.
Well, and that's true. And people go, well, because there's so much evidence out there. I mean, it's so compelling. If you get that into a parent's face, they'll go, or I gave it to my administrator and I didn't get a reaction. You only gave it to him once?
Right.
There's a reason they show commercials over and over and over and over.
Yep.
Because eventually did it.
Yep.
So, what's in store for you? What's your future got in store?
Well, that's a good question. I said, well, this retirement job is keeping me pretty busy. I'm really enjoying it. I'll be honest with you. I'm ready to get back on the road. You asked what's the day in the life of an ESM. It used to be several days at home, but also going to different shows and supporting different groups around the states that I cover. And so I'm ready to get back on the road and meet people face to face. As far as long term, I think I could stop doing this anytime if I wanted to. As far as personally, but there's so many great things on the horizon with this company, with the leadership that we have, and the new product launches that we have. It's like, I want to ride the new roller coaster. It looks fun. It might be a little scary at first, but let's see what happens. I might want to ride this again.
Because you're talking about being back on the road and seeing the people, which, oh boy, sure miss it, right?
Right.
Good hamburgers. When you work with a director or go into a school or whatever, split the time for me. How much is talking about the actual instrument? How much is talking about the person in the program?
Yeah, I try not to. I don't want them to do what I do when somebody knocks on the door and go, oh gosh, he's gonna try to tell me something.
Yeah.
That I don't want to engage in that unless I know that there were already some questions ahead of time about, hey, someday I might want to do this or do that. It's just about, what can I do to help you? What is it? How's it going? What can I do to help you? And if the subject of an instrument or sales or whatever comes up, then we engage. Yeah. But you never want to be in a situation where you feel like you're going into it and you have to come out with something tangible on the other side.
Yeah, we've all been the victims of that.
Yeah, I think people pick up on that pretty quickly.
Oh, it's a form of manipulation.
Sure. Sure.
And so that's why it's important there are people like you. Okay, we're going to wrap this up. We could go on forever. Man, Paul could make an anthology out of this one. first of all, just thanks for doing this.
Oh,
I mean,
well, thank you for asking.
I love you, and I just all the things. And again, you've been the point guard for the educational support managers, and as a result, the whole train is going fast. Any last thoughts before we say goodbye to all of our friends that are watching?
Well, I think, not to borrow this from whoever, but this too shall pass,
Mhm.
we I think music educators are really good at going with the flow and figuring out how to make things work, and we've many have proven to be able to do this even during these really tough times, and we're going to come out of this for the better. um, I think people have learned how to teach differently, trial by fire,
Mhm.
and I think they're going to realize that they can be very successful at teaching in a different way. Doesn't take the place to face, but they've also explored some areas that they never had time to explore because they were forced to have, whether it be music history or listening or whatever the case may be. It's like, oh wow, yeah, this is all an important part of music education, not just playing your horn on the stage or on the field.
Yeah. And I've heard so many directors say they did it because they didn't know what else to do, and the kids loved it.
Loved it.
We
Right.
got to keep doing this, Mr. Smith. This is incredible.
Yeah.
So
One last thing,
yeah,
Tim.
go.
Some directors don't like to hear this either, but fun. Are you making it fun? Because they call it an elective for a reason, right? I can elect to take it and I can elect to not take it. And, I always like to say, can you put the fun in fundamentals? Fundamentals are boring, but can you make them fun? And that's what I try to do as a middle school director, is make everything we did fun and rewarding at the same time, because that's what's going to keep them in the program.
Absolutely. And that's why some programs are successful, and people like Rick Ghinelli go in. You're always, what is it they say? Rick always gets great kids. Really, right? Because it's a reflection of you. Thank you, my friend, for doing this.
My
We'll
pleasure.
the next time we can do it again. And to all of you, thanks for hanging out and backstage. We'll see you the next time with another special guest. Good luck. Strike up the band. Take care. Bye-bye.